Hello and welcome back to Drinking by My Shelf. Today is Tag Tuesday, so I'm going to be doing a tag created by Angelica Kofa, and that is the Vegan Booktuber tag. I think this is such an interesting tag that Angelica's created because it's all about the books and the content that inspired your veganism journey, and that's really relevant for me right now because in January I just read a book which instantly inspired me to go vegan starting now. So I was planning to film this tag anyway and just talk about my thoughts and my goals for when I wanted to go vegan, and now it's taken a slightly different turn and now I can talk about how I got to where I am right now. And yes, one important thing that I've had to learn is that not all wine is vegan. Not all wine is even vegetarian. I found that truly disgusting. I didn't know that. But luckily, Blossom Hill does vegan wine, so I don't have to stop drinking by my shelf. So question number one is, why veganism? And Angelica states that you can answer this question no matter where you are on your personal vegan journey. So for me, I think that my road to becoming vegan had kind of three main steps to it. I had been a hardcore carnivore. I ate meat with every single meal. I don't think I ate anything that was vegetarian, even like for breakfast. I just loved meat. And at that point, if you had asked me about the animal cruelty aspect, I was just very, very shut off from that. And I just genuinely was thinking that animals, that I couldn't relate to them. I couldn't compare them to human emotions, and I didn't think that they suffered in the same way. And so even though I knew that, you know, farming happens in pretty horrible conditions, I didn't know the extent of it, but I knew it wasn't nice. I just didn't think of that as something that I needed to worry about or be sad about. So I think the first thing that happened to change that is that me and my husband got a dog. It's not something I consciously thought about when we got the dog, but I think that in the back of my mind, spending time with her and seeing that she is actually this emotionally intelligent animal, in the back of my mind was starting to change the way that I viewed animals in general. So that was step one. Step two was that I watched the documentary Blackfish. Before watching this documentary, I would have said that I just hated whales. I just thought they were evil, scary, killing machines, and I didn't want anything to do with them. And then I watched Blackfish. And interestingly, in Blackfish, they are painted as terrifying, scary killing machines. The whales in that do kill people, but it also shows the extent of their emotional intelligence. And I sat there, I watched it 3 times in 3 days basically, and just sobbed my eyes out. The scene where they take the baby whale away from the mother whale, and she's like crying and shaking. It just hit me, shamefully really for the first time, the extent to which these are living creatures with feelings like us. We're just animals too, and I don't know why I'd thought that we were so different from them. So those were the first 2 things to happen to kind of put me in a different headspace about how I was viewing animals. And then the big main change happened 2.5 years ago. My husband and I went to Barcelona for our wedding anniversary, and we were just having a lovely holiday. We were out for drinks, and they sometimes, if you order drinks at like a tapas place, will bring you little free tapas to have with your drink, which was really nice. And they brought over some foie gras, which I'd never had before. And I took one bite and was like, oh my goodness, this is delicious. What is this? And then my husband told me what it is and how it's made. If someone was standing in front of me and they said, okay, we can go and get a duck right now and do this horrible thing to it in order for you to eat this, would you like me to go and do that right now? There is no way in hell that I would say yes to that. I would be like, absolutely hell no, leave the duck alone, I don't need it that badly. But for some reason, when that process is removed and I'm not the one immediately making that decision, it suddenly seems okay to do it. But why? I'm still the one, I mean, I didn't actually pay for that foie gras, but if I wanted it again, I would still be the one giving somebody my money to say, yes, I condone you doing this. And that's when it suddenly hit me that I no longer wanted to give my money to the animal meat industry. So back then, in the summer of 2015, I decided to go vegan. And I tried it for about 5 days, really struggled with it, and I just gave up. I have ever since then been pescatarian, but the vegan thing just seemed too completely out of my reach. But that brings us up to now. So this year, I had made it my 2018 New Year's resolution that I wanted to go vegan. Not starting from the 1st of January, but I was going to just go vegan at some point during 2018, by the end of the year. And in order to do that, I wanted to set out to read and absorb lots of vegan content. And that brings me to question number 2. Question number 2 is, what content got you interested in veganism and would you recommend to a friend? So I've already talked about Blackfish. Technically that's the first content that ever got me interested in veganism, but the main one, the one that has really inspired me now to make that change, is Eating Animals by Jonathan Safran Foer. Now, Jonathan Safran Foer is the author of Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close. That's the only other book of his I read, and I absolutely loved it. So I always knew him as a fiction writer, and I think that's what did inspire me to pick this up, because I've talked before about how I often struggle to get really engaged in non-fiction, but this one had me absolutely hooked. I read it so quickly from start to finish because it really did read like a story. He's got such a beautiful way of storytelling, and it did exactly what I wanted it to do. The reason that I had set out wanting to read a lot more vegan content is because there's something that my husband always says, and I really believe it. Your behaviour will inherently change when you truly understand something. So the fact that I wanted to go vegan but wasn't doing it, couldn't put in that effort, is because there is some part of me that didn't truly understand it. It seemed on the surface like I did because I was always talking to people about why we should be vegan, but I wasn't actually doing it. So there must have been some part of my brain that just wasn't making those connections. So what I was hoping was that if I read more about it, I would make that true final understanding, and then that would enable me to change my behaviour. And that's exactly what happened. It no longer even feels like a struggle. The second I got into this book, it just suddenly seemed second nature to me that it's not necessary for me to be eating animal products. And what I liked about it, and what I want to make clear, is that Jonathan Safran Foer does say that's not the case for everybody. There are people for whom it is necessary to eat animal products, but for me, living in England with no major health problems, it isn't necessary for me to be eating animal products. And this book made that clear to me. And now, ever since then, I know it's only been 6 days, but ever since then, it's just felt so easy and natural that I don't need to eat anything with animals in it. As you probably gathered from question 1, the reason for me going vegan has so far been driven by the animal aspect, by wanting to avoid animal cruelty. But there are lots of other really important reasons, and this book covered those in a way that really spoke to me as well. So I already knew that there were environmental issues, but reading this book made those really clear, but also financially. So even if one or another of those reasons don't speak to you, there are other reasons that you might engage with and that might make more sense to you for why you also might feel that you no longer need to eat animal products as well. I realise in that I haven't particularly talked about the book itself, but essentially the reason that Jonathan Safran Foer wrote this book is because he had been on and off vegetarian for many years. It's something they had thought about, but when he had a son, he then decided that it was suddenly very, very important to him what he fed his son, that he needs to know where the food that he was putting on his son's plate was coming from, which is such a good reason to me and such a valid journey. So that's what inspired him to go out and just discover where the food he was giving his son was coming from. And his personal conclusion from that is to go vegan. But this book is absolutely not a straight up polemic against meat eating. It's got some really sensitive and interesting arguments in it from farmers. And Jonathan Safran Foer also draws the conclusion that he wants to really, really support traditional farming, non-factory farming, even though he personally doesn't want to eat the meat or the products from those farms, that they are just such a great alternative in so many ways. So there's lots of different conclusions that you can draw from this book and just really enjoy the journey. Even if it doesn't make you actually want to go vegan, there's other things you can learn from it. And I really would love to recommend that book to loads of people in my life, but it's just so hard because, and he talks about this in the book, people are so willing to close their eyes to any of these arguments, which I find really frustrating, to be honest, and a little strange, even though if I'm honest with myself, that's exactly what I was like. I had friends who went vegetarian and vegan before, back when I was eating full meat all the time, and I just didn't want to listen to them. I would make jokes about it, I would tease them for being vegetarians, but I didn't want to listen to what they actually had to say. And now that the shoe's on the other foot and I'm on that side of things, I see how frustrating it must have been for them that I was acting that way, because I genuinely find it so odd the way that some of my friends have responded to me talking about this. In my circle of friends, we don't laugh at any other kind of activism. We definitely wouldn't laugh at feminism. We all are feminists, and in fact find it infuriating when, slightly stubborn, slightly old-fashioned people don't quite understand feminism. And I just find it a bit funny because some of the things that my friends say about veganism makes them seem that way to me. They're kind of the old white men stuck in their ways, unwilling to open their eyes to veganism. And I don't say this to offend anybody because, as I said, I was absolutely like that. But I do just think it's interesting that we have this social norm to say no to veganism in a way that progressive, social justice-minded people don't say no to any other kind of change. Because it's not like I'm telling people that they have to go vegan. It's just my own personal choice, but people are so opposed to it. And then on that point, this is going off on a long rant, but I just have so many thoughts at the moment on veganism. When it comes to telling people that they should go vegan, I think I have a slightly unpopular opinion about that, even though I haven't been telling anyone that they have to go vegan because A, that would be massively hypocritical because I've been doing it for 6 days, and also I'm just not that confrontational, I'm too scared to do it. But the question is, should we be allowed, should it be okay for us to try and spread our ideas to other people, or should it be a very personal choice? And the accepted thing that most people I've talked to say is, fine, if you want to go vegan, that's your choice, but just don't tell me how I should eat. Which is fair enough, absolutely. But it's interesting that we view it that way, because when it comes, for example, to feminism, none of us are content to just say, well, I won't be sexist, but you live your life. We all want to fight for change about this. So why shouldn't vegans also be allowed to fight for change? I genuinely would like to know people's thoughts on this, so do leave me a comment, because I haven't yet been able to figure out a reason for why we're not supposed to talk to other people about veganism. Obviously not in a constant preachy way, because there are so many reasons why veganism is hard for people. I know that I struggled with it for the last few years, partly because I hadn't read this book and I didn't fully understand it, but also partly because food and eating is a bit of a complicated issue for me, like it is for a lot of people, particularly for a lot of women. And so I found that when I was trying to do the vegan diet, it sort of set off a lot of other unhealthy eating patterns for me. So yeah, there are so many reasons why veganism is really challenging for people, and I absolutely don't want to shame anybody, but why does that mean that I shouldn't be allowed to talk to people about why I think veganism is a good way forward? Let me know, I really want to know. Okay, question 3 is, what is a favourite dish or meal of yours? And as I said, I've only been vegan for 6 days now, so it's not like I have a huge repertoire, but I have absolutely loved literally every single vegan meal that I've had so far. It's all been delicious. Going out to restaurants, I've had delicious vegan crepes and vegan sorbets and brownies. A lot of the time I've been getting my lunches from work at Pret, and they have such nice vegan wraps. I went with Angelica to the Deliciously Ella Deli and had this phenomenal vegan chili. I honestly haven't felt that any tastes or flavours have been missing in any way. And I have also been learning to cook myself some vegan food, which is a particularly big step for me because up until before January of this year, I never cooked. Literally never. I mean, I vaguely knew how to make pasta for myself, but I don't think I had made pasta for myself since I left uni. My husband is a good cook, so I let him make a lot of the food, and I also just have a pretty unhealthy diet of getting takeaway food, and it wasn't good. So I wanted to make a change and learn how to cook anyway, and this has all kind of fallen into place at the perfect time. I'm going to show you some of the things I've made because they've been so good. My absolute favourite thing that I've made so far was this coconut dal. I made that for me and my sister yesterday, and it was honestly, I could eat that every day of my life and never get bored. So I predict I'll be making a lot more of that in the future. I made this coconutty soup, this coconutty veggie curry. A lot of these things are coconut based, which is funny because I would have always said that I didn't like coconut, so I don't like it in sweet things, but I've been loving this savoury coconut food. And then there's been recipes that technically aren't vegan because they have like a sour cream topping or a yogurt topping, but if you just don't make that topping, they're still just as delicious. So even before having started doing any research toward this, I found that I've already got that many vegan recipes in my house already that I've successfully made and enjoyed. There's just so much good stuff out there. And while I do want to use this as a good point for change and to be eating more healthily, I do think that it's hard to expect too much change for yourself at once. So one thing that I found useful, and the PETA website has been really good for this, is looking up vegan treats and vegan fast food and ways that if I want to lapse into any of my old habits, it doesn't mean that I also have to fall off the vegan bandwagon, which I did do on one night when I was drunk and went to Shake Shack and got cheesy fries, so I'm sorry about that. But in future, I've looked up other vegan fast food options. Next time I'm drunk and I want a 3 a.m. McDonald's, I can get a vegan burger at McDonald's. That's such great news. Question 4 is, what is a cozy winter autumnal recipe that you're excited to make? And because cooking as a whole is so new for me, I feel like I still have a whole world ahead of me of recipes I want to learn. But when I went to Angelica's house for dinner a few nights ago, she made this vegan shepherd's pie, which was absolutely delicious. So I would love to learn to make something like that. Having good comfort food recipes is going to be really important for me in helping this stick. One thing that I want to experiment with is vegan cheese, because cheese is basically my favourite food in the world. So that's going to be my main hurdle here. And some of the vegan cheese that I've tried so far I have not enjoyed really at all. But I do know that good vegan cheese exists and it's out there because I have had it. I've had delicious vegan mozzarella sticks in the past. I know that it's out there and I will find it. So one thing that I'm going to do soon with one of my friends who also wants to go vegan is do a taste test of lots of different vegan cheeses. So I think we'll film that, so you guys might see that coming up in a few weeks. But yeah, if I could learn some good cozy recipes using vegan cheese I really like, that would just seal the deal for me. Question 5 is, what is a good vegan cookbook that you would recommend to a friend? And again, I think I'm a little new to this to have a good answer, but I do have a vegan cookbook that I bought myself 2 years ago when I first wanted to do this, and I'm now going to look back into. I already love it even without looking at any of the recipes because it is called Thug Kitchen and the subtitle is Eat Like You Give a Fuck. And what I'm excited about is that it's all about like hearty meals that meat eaters will love. It's not just about like how to make healthy vegan salads, which, you know, I'll start doing, but it's not as exciting as it. This has got exciting recipes like how to make vegan burritos and tacos. It's got loads of swearing in it, which always makes cooking more fun. Question number 6 is, what's a book that you want to read to personally investigate further the ethos of veganism? And I've got a lot of these because, as I said, I really wanted to set out this year to make veganism so deeply embedded into my understanding that it's no longer a struggle to do it. So having read Eating Animals and found how effective it is, I now really want to read Animal Liberation by Peter Singer, which is like the philosophy behind veganism. This book is from the 70s, I believe, so this is one of the original kind of vegan philosophers, and I think that will be really, really fascinating. I want to read The Pig Who Sang to the Moon, even though I've heard mixed things about it. This one, I've seen from people reviewing it on Goodreads that it's not very scientific, and while I like the books to come across as good stories, which is what I really liked about Eating Animals, it also was really, really based in fact. It was about his quest for the truth behind the food that he wants to feed his kid. And this one, some people are saying, is a bit too speculative. It's a bit too much about him just observing animals and saying what he thinks. But I'm still really interested to read it because it is about the emotional lives of farm animals, and it's their emotional intelligence that really started this whole journey for me. So finally, we're on to the last question, question 7. Do you have any vegan YouTuber shout-outs? So number 1, I of course have to shout out the wonderful Angelica Kofa who made this tag. She is one of my friends in real life now. We've had lots of really great chats about veganism. She's made me so many delicious vegan meals. And she just posts so many informative videos on her channel that if you're interested in veganism, I 100% go and recommend that you watch them. Like the other day, I was just at work and I sent her a text asking what she thought about honey, about vegans eating honey, because I know that's kind of a divisive issue. And she replied straight away and was like, funny you should ask, because I was about to film a video on it. So she uploaded this video and I went and watched it on my lunch break, and it was really, really interesting and answered all of the questions that I had. She's just really articulate and thoughtful, and she's been doing this for a while, so she knows a lot about it. The next person that I want to shout out is Lauren from Lauren and the Books, who is a new vegan like me. She has been doing Veganuary, and I found her videos so helpful in this, because when I first had finished reading Eating Animals and decided that I wanted to go vegan, I was petrified because I know that it hadn't worked for me before and I just didn't know how it could be possible. But watching her videos, she makes it look so easy, so effortless, and she looks like she has such delicious food. So I think her videos going up during this Veganuary is a big part of what inspired me that I also could make the change. And finally, another YouTuber I want to shout out is Cami Scott, who is not a booktuber, but she is a vegan, and she and her girlfriend Cara both eat vegan, and they both post a lot of videos of them trying out different vegan restaurants. They live between London and LA, so seeing the ones in London is really, really great for me. And they also do quite a lot of vegan cooking at home, and they film a lot of it. And Cara has an Instagram called Darth Vader Vegan, where she posts about the places that they go. So I do really recommend Cami's videos as well, because they make veganism look so fun and glamorous. So those are all my current thoughts on veganism. And I am at the moment feeling really genuinely excited for the next stages of me exploring my veganism and exploring the things I want to make and eat, which is such a change from this time 2.5 years ago when I was desperately wanting to go vegan but feeling really negative and scared about it. And books have been such a big part of that. Reading Eating Animals was the most significant thing that changed that, and so I'm really, really excited to keep reading more of the books that I've got about veganism. And I would love to know any of your recommendations, so do leave me comments below with vegan books that you recommend, or documentaries, or recipes. I would love any of that, and I would love to chat to any other people who've recently gone vegan or are thinking about it, because it is a big challenge, and I think that we can all help each other by swapping tips and recommendations and just some support. I'm going to tag a couple of people to answer these questions who I know are vegan booktubers, but anybody else watching this, I would also love to know your thoughts. I think it's such an interesting topic, so well done to Angelica for creating such an original tag. So I am challenging Sarah without an H, Bookish Vegan, and Kate's Book Date to do this tag. I would love to know what you guys think about veganism and books. And of course, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and hit that subscribe button for new videos every Friday, and apparently sometimes a Tuesday. See you next time!